Hello, my friend. Let me tell you a story, not just of a princess, but of a woman who taught the world what it means to care, to feel, and to truly live. This is not a fairy tale. This is a story filled with real emotions, deep pain, and incredible strength. It is a story of someone who lived under the brightest lights, but often felt lost in the shadows. Her name was Diana. You may know her as Princess Diana, the Princess of Wales. But more than her title, more than her crown, what people remember is her heart. A heart that never stopped giving, even when it was breaking. She was born on July 1st, 1961, into an old British noble family. Her full name was Diana Frances Spencer. As a child, she lived in a large house with her three siblings. But even though the walls were wide and the rooms were grand, her childhood was not always happy. Her parents fought often. Her mother and father eventually divorced, and this left a mark on her young heart. Diana often said she felt unwanted, lost in the middle of two people who no longer loved each other. She was only 6 years old when her family changed forever. From that moment, she began to feel what many people feel: the ache of loneliness, the desire to be seen, to be loved without conditions. Growing up, she was shy, very shy. She was not the best student in school. She often failed exams, not because she wasn't smart, but because her mind was always filled with emotions, thoughts, and worries. But Diana had something rare. She had a gift, a special way of connecting with people. Even when she said very little, her eyes spoke. Her heart listened. And she had a deep love for children, for the elderly, for animals, for anyone who was gentle or hurting. That was her strength, even though she didn't know it yet. When she was a teenager, she moved to London and started living a more independent life. She worked as a babysitter, as a dance teacher, and in a preschool. She didn't live like a princess then. She took the bus, walked through the rain, and worked hard every day. But her life was about to change. One day she met Prince Charles, the oldest son of Queen Elizabeth. He was expected to be the next king. Diana was only 19. Charles was 32. They came from different worlds, but their families saw something in the match. And soon, the newspapers were filled with photos of them together. Diana was called Shy Di. The press followed her everywhere. Her face was suddenly on every magazine. The world watched her. But no one really knew her. In 1981, Diana and Charles were married in what many called the wedding of the century. Millions of people around the world watched the ceremony on television. Diana wore a huge white dress with a long train. She looked like a princess from a dream. But behind that beautiful image, something didn't feel right. Diana later admitted that she cried before the wedding. Her heart felt uneasy. But at that time, she believed she had no choice. She felt trapped in a royal story that wasn't truly hers. Still, she smiled. She waved. She walked down that aisle and into a life that would test her soul in ways no one could see. At first, the world was in love with her. The public adored her beauty, her kindness, her sweet and gentle manner. She was young, fresh, and full of light. But behind palace doors, Diana felt cold and alone. Life in the royal family was strict. There were rules for everything: how to sit, how to speak, when to smile. She was constantly watched, constantly judged. Her husband was distant, often more interested in someone else. And slowly, Diana began to break inside. She suffered from depression. She developed an eating disorder. She cried in private, with no one to turn to. She later said, "I was crying out for help, but no one listened." She didn't feel like a princess. She felt like a shadow in a castle too big, too silent. But there was one light in her life. her children. When she gave birth to Prince William in 1982, and later Prince Harry in 1984, everything changed. She poured her heart into being a mother. She didn't want her boys to grow up the way she did, feeling distant from love. She hugged them. She played with them. She took them to amusement parks, fast food restaurants, even to hospitals to meet people in need. She wanted them to see the real world. She wanted them to grow up with hearts, not just crowns. As her love for her children grew, so did her courage. Slowly, Diana began to find her voice. She no longer wanted to live only for others. She wanted to live truthfully. She started to speak out, not loudly, but honestly. She began sharing her struggles. In one famous interview, she said the words that shocked the world. "There were 3 of us in this marriage." It was a reference to Charles's long relationship with another woman. That sentence broke centuries of royal silence. For the first time, a royal didn't hide the truth. She faced it. Her marriage ended in divorce in 1996. She lost her title, her Royal Highness, but she gained something far more important: freedom. She was no longer a prisoner in a golden cage. She was now just Diana, but stronger than ever before. And she used that strength to change the world. She began visiting places others would never go: hospitals filled with AIDS patients, war zones filled with landmines, communities suffering in silence. She didn't just visit. She hugged, held hands, looked into eyes. At a time when people were afraid to touch someone with HIV, Diana held their hands without fear. She said, "HIV does not make people dangerous to know. You can shake their hands and give them a hug." Her compassion broke walls. People saw her not just as a princess, but as a person who truly cared. She became a symbol of hope for the sick, for the lonely, for the brokenhearted. She wasn't perfect. And that's why people loved her. She showed her pain. She admitted her mistakes. She cried in public. She laughed loudly. She lived with her heart, not just her image. She gave people something more powerful than tradition. She gave them truth. But life sometimes is unfair to those who shine too brightly. On August 31st, 1997, while in Paris, Diana was in a car, trying to escape the paparazzi, the photographers who had followed her for years. The car was speeding through a tunnel when it crashed. The news spread quickly. Princess Diana was dead. She was only 36 years old. The world stopped. People cried on the streets. Grown men fell to their knees. Thousands brought flowers to her home. Millions watched her funeral. And when her brother spoke at the ceremony, he said, "She was the most hunted person of the modern age." That was true. The press had followed her every move. Her life was always under a microscope. Yet even with all that pressure, she kept giving love. Today, when we remember Princess Diana, we do not remember her for her jewels, or her title, or her royal blood. We remember her for her hands, hands that hugged the sick, for her eyes, eyes that saw the pain others ignored, for her heart, a heart that refused to turn cold, even when the world hurt her. Diana taught us that being kind is not a weakness, it is a strength, that being emotional does not make you small, it makes you human. Her story is not just about a princess who lived in a palace. It's about a woman who felt everything: love, loss, hope, and heartbreak, and still chose to give. A woman who showed us that you don't have to be perfect to be powerful, that you don't need a crown to make a difference, that even if the world doesn't understand you, your truth still matters. And maybe, just maybe, her story speaks to you. Maybe you, too, have felt the need to be strong when you felt weak. Maybe you've smiled while your heart was breaking. Maybe you've tried to be what others expect while losing your true self. But just like Diana, you can find your light again. You can heal. You can rise. You can love, even after pain. Because in the end, that is what Diana taught us all. To live from the heart, to be honest, to be brave, to be kind, even when the world is not. She was the princess of hearts, and her heart still lives in the kindness we show each other, in the courage to speak truth, and in every moment we choose love over fear. Thank you, my friend, for listening to this story. It's not just history, it's a lesson, a mirror, a message. May it stay with you, not just today, but always.